It's the first ever built exclusively for a women's professional sports team. And now it's home to us for the morning, ahead of the National Women's Soccer League Championship this weekend. Dana Jacobson got a firsthand look at CPKC Stadium. I like saying that before its moment in the spotlight. Dana, listen, I've only seen a little bit. I haven't seen as much as you, and I'm already blown away. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It is unbelievable. The $125 million stadium opened its doors back in March, then proceeded to sell out the season for its residents, the KC Current. Now, that team and its owners had hoped to be playing in Saturday's championship. Instead, they're having to settle for showing off a first-of-its-kind facility, proving the point, if you build it, they will come.
It's a shining beacon on the banks of the Missouri River. Kansas City's CPKC Stadium, the first ever built for a women's professional sports team.
This is a representation of our crest up top in the red with the KC.
Chris and Angie Long are co-owners of the stadium and the KC Current, who call it home. They say building their own facility was a must.
We see it as baseline table stakes if you want to be competitive in professional sports.
The retention of coaches, the ability to recruit technical staff, the ability to recruit and retain players. Everything revolves around a proper environment.
Like the view, seating 11,500, the Longs say there's not a bad seat in the house.
The furthest seat from the touchline is 94 feet. If you look, everything's been highly curated to have that level of connectivity.
And look, we did, finding those details on a recent tour, like in the locker room.
There's no corners. It's not a rectangle. If somebody's in a corner, they're not part of the group. This is such a team sport, and everybody is even in this, sort of circle or oval space.
Yeah.
CBS cameras, the first invited in for an up-close look.
You think about just the concept of the locker room, it's pretty basic, but for women's sports for so long, it hasn't been invested in.
From the locker room, the walk to the pitch is a short one, but filled with meaning along the way.
The players walk down the hallway.
From the locker room.
From the two locker rooms, and they'll walk down there and take the pitch for the match. And the fans are lined up here celebrating, and in the backdrop are the words of Title IX.
How did you decide that that would be there?
Well, we talked a lot about the experience of what do we want the players to experience as they walk down the hallway?
Yeah.
What do we want the fans to experience and to connect them with it?
It's a foundational element that people need to be cognizant of.
So many of the touches found at CPKC Stadium following a theme of inclusivity. Artwork lining the hallways by local female artists. A multimedia tribute to the first U.S. women's national team to play international matches.
It's mid-pitch.
And the standout, a pink seat mid-pitch honoring the memory of Olivia Bloomfield, who died at age 10, but not before representing that all-encompassing spirit.
We're compelled to honor her and really create a place where you can honor others that are driving inclusiveness.
And I think so many sporting events are maybe accidentally not inclusive, whether it's cultural or history. You think of being a female athlete. In a lot of ways, you're not included. So wanted it to be inclusive, representative of our community, and you want everyone to have a home here.
And I can tell you from talking to players yesterday, they appreciate what this is. They don't want it to just be one. They want this to be the first of many to come.
You know what, Dana? They always say that love is in the details. And I see why the Longs are so proud and Kansas City is. There are so many details. It's so thoughtful.
So
about
intentional, right?
Yeah.
Intentional and how it was put together. I have to tell you, I am blown away from the moment I drove up, and you just see the words on the stadium. And the driver who brought me here today, Tim, security actually, he said that when you see it from the road, it just fills your heart. It's amazing what has happened here.
And the fans are responding the same way. They sold out every single game.
I'm
this
so
season
glad
in
to
this
hear
stadium.
that.
Yeah, I brought gifts. Speaking of the details,
we like
jackets for you, and also the NWSL did these amazing. I have nail art. If you can see it on me, there are press-ons.
Yeah.
It's the details that matter for everyone. So pass them on.
Do you have any teal Here we
go.
Of course.
Oh,
And
wow.
Nate, I don't want to throw it to you, but I have no other way of getting it to you.
Yes.
It's been an incredible
Spirit.
welcome that we've all had.
It
here.
is.
pride.
You know, and I was thinking, we did this story earlier on Capitol Hill about the bathrooms. They need to come look at this place. The unisex bathrooms for everybody.
I told you yesterday.
The stalls are
Yeah,
private. Did you say that yesterday?
We did, and we talked about it later
Yeah,
on.
we talked about it a little later on.
It's such a simple solution. I'm so glad we're here.
Yeah.
So
Me
glad
too.
we're here.
Thanks for having me here with you.
We play on. Doyle. Wide open. Jenkins! We are tied! Are you kidding me?
Darian Jenkins finds the back of the net in 2022 for the Orlando Pride. She also won an NWSL title in 2018 with the North Carolina Courage. Darian Jenkins is now retired, and she joins us now, we are happy to say, as a CBS Sports analyst.
Yeah, retired from soccer, but she's still working.
That's right, that's right. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And that took me back. I was like, is that me?
That's you. That's you.
Gayle and you were talking during the commercial break.
Yeah, because Darian, listen, everybody knows me. I'm not an athlete, but I think if I was, you walk in and you think, God, I want to be good.
Yeah.
What's it like for you when you walked in here and saw this?
Well, it's incredible. Mind you, I played in the league when we were still playing on baseball fields. So to come into a stadium that's women's-specific soccer stadium to exist is really
Because you knew it was
incredible.
going to be built, so you knew it was coming.
When I
but-
played for Kansas City in 2021, they had announced that they were breaking ground on the stadium.
Yeah.
But this is my first time actually getting to be here. Because, you know, when we're covering, we're never really at the game. So
Yeah.
If
this
you
is
haven't
the
done
first
it yet,
time.
you should walk through the tunnel, down the stairs, onto the field. They won't let you get on the field just yet.
Yeah,
but
it's a little
beautiful
covered,
thing.
but
I mean,
okay.
you can feel. I got goosebumps just doing it myself.
All right.
This has been such an amazing moment for women's sports in general, but women's soccer in particular. I mean, adding 1 million fans year over year. What's it been like for you to watch that growth?
It's been incredible because these athletes, this league has been built on athletes that played with so much less than this. So to see it come full circle and have this stadium have massive internationals come into the league and shatter records has been so cool, particularly this season. And to see the fans just gravitate towards it, and we have the faces like Trinity Rodman that are becoming the face of women's soccer, has just been really fun to watch and a long time coming.
All right, let's talk about the big final. I mean, you have your former teammates, the Orlando
Yep.
Pride, going up against the Washington Spirit. What are you expecting in this?
Who are you rooting for, Darian?
I don't want to be biased, though.
Speak into the microphone. Yes.
It's okay to be biased every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends on both teams, I have friends on both teams that are
Yeah.
playing right now, but it's a really good matchup. #1 seed versus #2 seed. Orlando's broken a lot of records, winning the Shield. They'd only be the second team to win the final and the Shield, which I'm going to brag. My old North Carolina Courage team did that in 2018.
Brush your shoulder off.
Yeah. But the Spirit are experienced. They've been into a final before. This would be their second if they win it, and they have some of those players that won that championship in 2021. But it's going to be fun to see the rookies of Washington Spirit battle the veterans of Orlando.
Yeah.
Is it hard for you to make a prediction?
It is, because I do think it's going to be high scoring.
You do?
I don't want to throw out who I think is going to win, because it's really going to depend on who's finishing on the day, who's really composed in front of the goal.
You think it's going to be high scoring, but you're friends with Orlando's goalkeeper, Anna Morehouse.
Yes.
And I mean, she's going to say, it ain't going to be high scoring. I got this locked down
She's
here.
going to give you a lot of
rolling
crap.
here.
Yeah, she's going to give you a lot of crap. I played with her in France for Bordeaux. We both transferred over to Orlando, and it's been fun to see her growth. I mean, she broke the league record for shutouts with 13 this year. And to see her confidence even when she's playing and even off the pitch, the way she carries herself, the way she does interviews. Yeah. She used to be so shy, and I love seeing her come into this superstar form that I know she's had.
No, I love what Nate and Tony were saying. The audience is building. You know, it's getting its just due. What do you want people to know about this game that they may not know? What should we be looking out for? As someone who plays the game, loves the game, what do you want us to know about why it's so fantastic?
Women's soccer has never really gotten the respect it deserves. So these athletes have had 2-3 jobs on the side while playing professional soccer. So now that they're getting paid more, they have a stadium built for them. Fans are watching. There's investment from sponsors like CBS.
Yes.
Like we have a network
Say
that's
that part
highlighting
again, like who?
CBS.
Right.
That's highlighting the game is incredible. It's been a long time coming, and these women are incredible, what they do on the field, but especially off of the field.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we love your transition into media.
Thank you.
Thank you for
It's
joining
so
the
nice
team.
to meet you.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
nice to meet y'all too.
Jenkins,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.
It's so good to see you, Melissa Etheridge.
Such a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm thinking, what a moment for you. And listen, they couldn't have picked a better person, because this is your stomping ground. You know this area very well. You grew up very close to here.
Yes, yes.
So how are you feeling? What are you thinking?
I am so thrilled how Kansas City has embraced women's sports and has jumped right in with investment. investment.
Yes.
And with enthusiasm, and then the fans start coming, and it's so, I'm just thrilled.
But everybody knows about how you love the Kansas City Chiefs, too.
Well, yeah, then
you and
there's
Melissa and Nate were talking football. They were laying it all down. Yeah,
that would do.
You love the Kansas City Chiefs, too, of course.
And they're great. You know, this is known as a great sports city.
How about that?
It's so exciting because I lived those years when it was not.
Yeah, and let's talk about that seismic shift in women's sports.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to give credit where credit's due. When it comes to women's sports, they have led the way when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Not every men's sports league has been at the forefront of that. So before we talk about the seismic shift, I just want to applaud women's sports for leading the way in so many different areas.
Amen.
But what else can we do, though?
Well,
because I feel like we're on the cusp of this really taking off nationwide and worldwide.
Yeah, if you look behind the scenes of what's happening, it's women's investment. And when you look at the spirit and you see Michelle Kang and how she invested, and then you see the results here. The fan engagement has gone up 48%.
Yeah.
You know, it's each year this is happening. And so when you get that sort of enthusiasm, when you get the funds going into it, you get the city support.
Yeah.
That's what can happen. It's people understand it's a place where young girls can go and be fans and be just delighted.
All that is super important from a business perspective, but none of it matters if it's not super exciting on the field. There's so much talent.
No doubt.
Oh, my God.
I was at a playoff game at FC Gotham in the quarterfinals, or Gotham FC. So out of my mind excited. I mean, the music, the fans, the chants, the whole band's in the stands. It's so much fun.
It's incredible. When you see the way these women play, I mean, they are fierce. They are fierce. And Marta, the GOAT, the one who we'll hope we'll see.
Physical and graceful.
Physical and graceful. She did that kick, and then all the free kicks she did to win the. Oh, it's so exciting, so very exciting.
Can we talk about you getting ready for the national anthem? Because everybody says the national anthem is one of the hardest songs to sing. You've done it before, but how are you preparing this time?
Well,
it's cold out here, Melissa.
It's one of those things that if you mess it up, it will ruin your career, right? The career's over. So I sing it in the shower a lot. It's about starting low enough. I sing it a cappella. I don't do anything but just, so it's about starting on the right note. When it's cold, that's a little bit more of a challenge when you take a deep breath and it's like, ouch, you know. But I've done that before. Usually I get the call out to come do a playoff or something, and it's always freezing cold. So I'm all right. I'm there.
How do you make it your own while also keeping it traditional?
Well, that's just it. That's how I maybe throw a little bluesy note in the end just to, make it fun. But it's about just delivering. It's a gorgeous song. I mean, it's a huge range.
It is. It is.
But it's
it
really
makes me so proud every time I see it. I want to talk about your music, too, Melissa, because, listen, I love Melissa Etheridge's catalog. My favorite is I'm the Only One, but you have so many. But you just recently did a mashup with Chapel Roan's song, which I thought was so clever to do. I mean, you always seem to be keeping your finger on the pulse of the music. You've worked with Taylor Swift. Tell me what your thinking is when it comes to music. Taylor has talked about you and the guitar. Tell me your thinking about this.
It's the same thing as in sports. I was actually just talking to Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, and we were talking about what's available and how they used to play in little holes in the wall and stuff. And I said, well, that's the same in the music business. And when I look at Chapel Roan and the hundreds of thousands of people, and, we go, well, we paved the way. We did that. That's what we're supposed to do. So there's a lot of women supporting women in music, in sports, and it makes a difference. And when people believe that it's exciting, if you come to one of my concerts, you can see that, then the success happens.
A lot of women supporting women, but when it comes to hoisting that championship trophy tomorrow, only one team of women.
Ask her the question, Tony. Ask her the question.
Do you have a pick? Who's going to win it tomorrow?
Well, I'm a big Casey Current fan.
Of course,
it's not possible.
Yes.
I got to say the spirit. I really do. I got it with everything that's been going on. I mean, Marta's the GOAT. We would all love to see that. I would be okay if that happened. But I know some friends that are investors in the spirit, and I think seeing the results on the field, investing in players, investing in buildings, I hope the spirit.
And do you feel as good as you look, Melissa? Because you have been through it when it comes to health and all sorts of stuff. You feel good?
You know what?
Good?
Life is up and down.
Yeah.
And it is a gift.
Yeah.
And every day, I believe that. And it is my job to just get as much joy out of every day as I can, and certainly not let the waves carry me away.
Every
Here's
day
to
is
more
a gift,
joy.
But you know
Here's
what,
to more
Melissa,
joy for
you're
you.
a gift as well. Thank you very much.
We
appreciate it
so much.
And
Love
folks,
you guys being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. This means a lot.
Thank you for coming.
It does. Time for Talk of the Table, and I'm feeling a bit more like a champion this morning. I'm not sure why. Is there a reason? What could it be? I'm sitting
Because
next
you're
to an
sitting
amazing
next to two champions, maybe?
champion trophy, and I got two champions here on
There
set
you
with me.
go.
Let's go through the resume. It's time for Talk of the Table, a very special edition. Legendary athletes, superstar power couple, Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. Megan is a former National Women's Soccer League star, best known as the leader of the women's national team that won the World Cup and Olympic gold medal. Sue, four-time WNBA champion and five-time Olympic gold medalist, considered one of the best basketball players of all time. And together they host a weekly podcast. It's called A Touch More, out every Wednesday. Fresh editions, covers women's sports in general. Meg, Sue, so happy to have you guys here. Really appreciate it. So you have a regular segment on the podcast called The Bicker of the Week.
I like that.
But let's get to something that is undisputed at the moment, which is that women's sports is having a moment, and the NWSL is having a moment as well. You call it the biggest, baddest thing out there right now. Why do you say that? What are you excited about?
I think, like you said, just women's sports in general. We just went through a historic WNBA season. This has been a historic NWSL season, from viewership to just like the vibe. You can just sort of tell. We're here, first ever women's specific soccer stadium here at KCPC in Kansas City, and all the stars are showing out. Marta put on a ridiculous performance.
Ridiculous.
Trinity's obviously doing amazing. Barbara Banda. It just feels like all of the excuses that have been made for women's sports are like, we've exhausted all those, and now we're just getting to the actual product, which has been good for decades.
Yeah, and Sue, you're part owner of the Gotham team, Gotham FC, which was knocked out by the Spirit.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, as you sit here tomorrow, do you root for the Spirit or do you root against them? That's question number one. And are you thinking about changes for next season for your team?
Yeah, I think we're all rooting for penalty kicks.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's how Gotham went out. But it was a great season.
Yes, it was.
We had a tremendous year in free agency, brought in so many talented players. So I think it's more about building on that. You know, sometimes those types of teams, it can take a second to build that chemistry. So we're looking to keep that going.
Yeah, and what are you looking forward to in the game tomorrow? Because I told you both, I can't say this enough, how blown I am away by this stadium, the people that play here, and what it represents. So you point out, Megan, the game hasn't changed. It's always been this, but people are seeing it differently for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Megan actually said it perfectly. There were so many excuses surrounding women's sports for so long as to why not to invest, why not to watch. Those have been exhausted, and the beauty of that is we now have all the data to back what we knew. Yeah. We knew this was great. We knew people should get involved, and now we actually have numbers, viewership, franchise valuations, you name it. We have the numbers to back that. So when we walk in rooms now, we can say proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, women's sports is not a charity case.
Right.
That's a fact. Speaking of investments, Megan, earlier this week, philanthropist Gayle King came on our show. She said she's donating $30 million over the next 5 years to help grow women's sports. What type of change and impact does that make when someone comes in with that type of capital?
I think, first of all, just someone that has the kind of capital that she has, that has, made the commitment to be like, I want to put my money here first and foremost. I think that's really important and a signal to other business people like her. 100%. And then I think the investment specifically, from at least what I know about it, and we'll see over time, is to really build out the larger network and business that is women's soccer. So that's, more national team camp for youth players, which ultimately is gonna, grow that base for the senior national team when we're World Cups and Olympics. Investment into referees and coaches and talent identification, like all of that is the larger
infrastructure.
Exactly, the larger ecosystem and foundation, to the stars that you see, on the national stage and on the international stage.
Well, we've been calling you all day. The sports power couple is coming. Power couple is coming. I'm curious, what does a power couple do when they're just at home, hanging out? I mean, you're both retired, still at the top of your game. What is your day-to-day life like for you now? Do you miss the sport at all? I know you two are very, very tight. What's it like? in your house? Take us inside. Take us inside, Sue and Megan.
Sometimes. We miss it sometimes. I miss people doing everything for me. That's nice. Now I gotta I have to make my dentist appointment. How do you do that? I like when I get out of bed, the first step I take doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. I like that part.
I got a quick follow-up. I'm married to a track star. She's an athlete. We get competitive. How do you resolve issues when you are competitive and you're trying to win an argument?
Couples therapy. You take it to a professional.
Me too.
You know.
Me too. I'm an advocate.
Because neither of us are moving. We're stubborn. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm third party. I hear you, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Megan, what does it mean to walk in the stadium, though? When Darian Jenkins was here earlier, she said she remembers playing on a baseball field not too long ago, and now it's here.
Do you ever wish you were in year one of your career and instead of year one of your retirement?
Yeah, we say that all the time. I mean, this year in particular has been we're happy for them, but no, honestly,
But you paved the way, though.
Yeah, I do feel an immense amount of pride, walking into this stadium.
Yeah.
Even going to W games, seeing what the national team did over the summer. I think my generation of players should all feel very proud. From all the players that started the NWSL to the national team players to the many fights we've had. This is exactly what we felt like we deserve, but this is what they deserve.
Yes.
And this is the platform they deserve and the arena and the whole spectacle of it all.
Yeah.
And we have, the biggest stars playing at their best, and that's everything we ever wanted.
And Sue,
we're
it's
a little
happening
bit old, but it's okay.
It's happening with the WNBA, too.
Yeah.
You see
No
that,
doubt.
too.
For sure. Yeah, and as
It's a great
former
segment. You're the champ.
Yeah.
You're the champ of the show.
Yeah, no doubt. Sue Bird, Megan Rapinoe, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming.
We're joining you from CPKC Stadium in Kansas City, the very first venue in the world built for a women's pro sports team. And that's because tomorrow, the National Women's Soccer League final will be played right here. Orlando Pride versus Washington Spirit, airing on CBS and our streaming service, Paramount Plus. And it comes during a time of major growth for women's sports as a whole, and after a record-setting season for the NWSL in particular. The league tells us overall regular season attendance hit an all-time high, surpassing 2 million fans. So while women's soccer surges in popularity, and it is surging big time, it's helped by the success of the U.S. national team, which won Olympic gold in August. And yet, people are talking about the average salaries for women pros. Reportedly, it hovers around $56,000 a year compared to men, whose average hovers are close to $600,000 a year. Pretty big gulf between the two. But if the NWSL season to date is any example, the only way up is up and quickly. Joining us now to talk about all this and the success so far, how the league is building on it, is the NWSL Commissioner, Jessica Berman. You know your business, you know your sports, Jessica. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Why are you sitting there with no coat, Jessica?
I don't know. We're in different countries.
Oh, no. We are cold.
I mean,
bravo to you.
You're
like
excited.
The jacket.
You got the halo of an amazing season over you, right? This has been a great
That's
moment.
why I don't feel cold.
You're feeling good. You're feeling
Things
good.
have been heating up around here in women's soccer.
What has led? What's behind this excitement at the moment?
Investment.
Yeah.
We have our ownership group catalyzing an investment in the NWSL that's unprecedented in history, and it's buoyed by the incredible talent of our players. We have the best players in the world playing here. We're going to see the best of the best competing right here behind you on Saturday. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer, but we're just so excited, and to be able to invest in the infrastructure, the permanence of what is happening around our league is going to change the future of women's sports.
Yeah, but people can't let the weather be a deterrent. This is an amazing what is happening here, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I've heard you say women's sports is not a charity. I love when you say that. What is it, though, what is it going to take to make it profitable? That's what it always comes back to. But, it's not profitable yet.
We hear about the revenue.
Yeah, and to boost those salaries, because people always talk about the discrepancy.
Tony. Yes.
Well, we just negotiated a new collective bargaining agreement where we're actually sharing revenue with the players. So when a business invests in us, like our sponsors or our media partners like CBS, our entire model.
Say that part again, like who?
CBS.
Yes.
Prime time tomorrow night.
Yes.
All of that revenue is being allocated and distributed across our ecosystem, and a really key component of that is making sure our players are paid what they're worth. So we got to grow our revenues, and we got to grow the compensation of our players so that the whole system can rise.
And that's what you see in the men's leagues, that revenue share. Speaking of that, how important is it to understand that your league is going to move at its own pace, but at the same time, look at the successful men's leagues and identify with certain things that you want to model your league after?
That's the most fun part about this job. You all probably know I spent most of my career in men's sports. It's only been the last 2.5 years that I've worked in women's sports, come to this side of the house.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun to be part of a property that we can take from the men's leagues what we think works for us, but leave behind the things that don't work for us. And one of the examples is getting rid of the draft. So we decided to make all of our players full free agents, which means that when they're not under contract, our women in our league get to choose where they play. We think that's really important for women to be able to choose. It's also really important in a global labor market where soccer is a universal global game. We want to be able to attract those players, remove all artificial barriers.
We had Megan Rapinoe on last hour, and she said, listen, this sport has always been this good.
Right.
It has.
It's not
the
like
talent has always been there.
Yeah, I love that she made that point. Talent's always been there. The game has always been this good. Finally, people are starting to notice. She's certainly one of the greats that paved the way. But what is your pitch? What do you say to people to make them understand what you see so clearly?
We've taken the sport from being hidden to visible.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with Megan. It's one of the only team sports in America that when you close your eyes and think of greatness, you think of women in soccer. And that is the underpinning and the foundation of everything that we are building. The talent on the pitch is second to none. And all that we had to do was open the curtain and invite the world in to see it. That's what we've done, and that's why you see the business booming.
It's so true. I mean, all the excitement around the World Cup or the women's national team at the Olympics, I mean, you just point out that, hey, you know, those same players, they're here, and a whole lot of other greats, and they're playing almost all year round.
Well, actually, Saturday night is almost like a rematch of the gold medal match. You have Marta from Brazil playing for the Orlando Pride. You have Trinity Rodman playing for the Washington Spirit, who was leading the U.S. women's national team this summer in Paris. And so in many ways, this is the exact example of what you're talking about, Tony, which is that the best players in the world who competed at the Olympics this summer that had tens of millions of people watching are actually going to be competing again this weekend on this pitch.
Yeah, tell us what you thought when you first saw it up and running, because I think she's gorgeous. This facility, I think, is gorgeous. I've never seen really anything like it, from the suites, the bathrooms, it's so spectacular. What'd you think?
When I walked into this building, I actually cried.
Did you?
First time, I actually cried. And it was because of the permanence of it in a world where everything is so fleeting on social media and everything that is so digital. This is something that for this community will last for generations. And it won't go away. It's not going to disappear in your feed. It is here to stay.
And some of our viewers may be wondering why Gayle's so excited about the bathrooms, but it's because they're unisex, but also because they're like little apartments. You go in, you close the door, it goes all the way down to the floor.
Privacy.
There's no space. There's no space so you can see somebody in there. I mean, it's beautifully done.
For women in particular who have been sports fans for decades, to be able to have a building that has no assumptions about the gender of who will be in the building is so validating for us, because there actually are a lot of men who watch our game and who are fans of the NWSL, but for us to guess about who's going to need to use the bathroom and therefore make assumptions about access to that is something that's so inherent in your experience as a fan, especially when you're buying beers and buying hot chocolate and coffee and need to use the bathroom throughout the game. Like, you want your experience to be seamless.
Bravo, Commissioner, bravo.
And for the men, you got to put that seat down and keep the aim on point, all right? Focus in. Jessica Berman, thank you very much.
These days, Kansas City is rightfully known for its many athletic achievements. But one addition to the city's sporty vibe was introduced as far back as 1994. We're talking about pop art sculptures on the grounds of the Nelson-Atkins Art Museum. They're now a symbol of Kansas City, but the oversized badminton equipment wasn't always so welcome. Our Dana Jacobson has the story.
It's quirky, I think it's fun, I think it's cool, so why not?
The net results are in.
It's just amazing.
These massive works of art are a smash success.
We're in the middle of Kansas City, and there is a giant sculpture of a shuttlecock out here. How did this happen?
So we are standing on our North Plaza. It's a green lawn.
Okay.
And what you have to think about is, imagine you are up in the air as a bird flying over, and you look down, and the museum's building is a net. And you have a sculpture park on the south and a green space on the north, and that was the court. So they thought of us as a giant badminton court. So when you have a badminton court, what do you play with?
You need a shuttlecock.
Shuttlecocks.
The artists, Klaus Oldenburg and Cosi van Bruygen, were inspired by flight and the elegance of a feather when creating the pieces. The shuttlecocks also served to bridge the gap between the perception of the museum's elitism with the interests of the public. Their debut in 1994 courted controversy.
What was the reception at first?
Well, art
it wasn't
lovers,
good, is what you're trying to tell me.
Yes, and it was the sort of predictable thing like, this isn't art. What is this? Right. This is this big giant shuttlecock, or this is cheesy. It's horrible. And of course, that was that. This is now. And now, wonderfully, people have warmed up to the shuttlecock, to put it mildly. In point of fact, the shuttlecock really is a symbol of Kansas City.
And at 18 feet tall and weighing over 5,000 pounds, they're a hard-to-miss symbol for a city so often in the sporting spotlight.
I think the shuttlecocks had a mission to make art accessible and to give the community something to rally around. And you know, sports does that too. Here in 2024, we understand that there's not a division between people who love sports and people who love art, that you can love them both, and that they both give you something to make you proud of your city as well. And I think the shuttlecocks are a wonderful symbol of that.
I say this about sports all the time. Anything that gets somebody to watch is awesome. If it's a player or a story, whatever, and same for art. So if it's this little birdie, this shuttlecock that does it in giant form, why not?
Yeah.
You know, I used to play back in the day when I was a kid in high school. I never knew that this was called this. I always called it the birdie.
The birdie.
Oh,
a birdie.
Yeah. I never knew.
It's called a shuttlecock. We looked it up. You want to take this? Yeah.
Right. Because you are shuttling it back and forth across the net, and the feathers of it.
Or like a rooster's tail.
Like a rooster's tail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was wondering.
We teach you something new every day, right?
Thank you, Dana.
Dana, thank you very much. Love having you. Oh, watch out now.
We are here in good old Kansas City. I love this place where the National Women's Soccer League Championship game, have we mentioned, is happening tomorrow. So who better to talk to this about this awesome sports moment than the city's mayor? His name is Quentin Lucas. Very popular here. He's in his second term as mayor of Kansas City. Was born and raised right here. So you know, Mr. Mayor, what this match means for your city.
This is an exciting day, but even a bigger time for Kansas City.
Yeah.
We opened up this stadium back in the spring. We have had great visitors, energy, sellouts again and again. And in a city that's known for our American football lately, I've been excited about women's soccer, women's sports, and how everybody has just supported it so much.
Oh, yeah. You got that football team, too. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the soccer in just a second, but first we want to address the Democratic issues. Democrats didn't do so well in this last election, as you know, and you wrote an op-ed in the Kansas City Star. I remember that paper. I used to work here back in the day, so I love this city. You said this, your op-ed, Democrats win on the issues, Donald Trump won on the message. What did you mean by that?
You know, I think when you look at President-elect Trump's message, there was clarity to it. I disagreed significantly with it, but you understood what he was talking about, whether it be borders or anything under the sun. Democrats just take up one issue, Project 2025. They were trying to explain a whole set of things that were largely, in some cases, negatives. There has been a big debate in the Democratic Party. Some people are saying the Democrats weren't talking about basic issues. I disagree with that. I think Joe Biden did all the time. Certainly Vice President Harris did. But how you do that communication, how you make that clarity, and how you let people know health care will be more available for you, food prices will go down, I think that message was missing.
Yeah. Well, there has been a lot of blame and finger-pointing, coulda, woulda, shoulda, all of that stuff. What had happened was, and I know you campaigned for the Harris-Walz ticket, what do you think that the Democrats need to do to get back on message at this point?
You know, I think there is always an issue of messengers. How are you sharing them, and in what places are you sharing them? It can't just be a one campaign thing. It has to be all the time, and it has to actually be also outside of the swing states. I think that when you look at your national narratives and messaging, you saw a tight race out of states like New Jersey this time around and others. And although they weren't necessarily competitive, if you have this narrative of one side cares, one side is listening and talking about the basic issues you care about, and the other side is debating everything under the sun, then I think you're going to miss it. And I think the other thing that we saw is kitchen table issues matter a lot to people. Yeah. You want to feed your kids. You want to make sure you're taking care of those basics, not debating every culture war issue around.
So let's talk about this stadium. Built during your first term.
Yes.
It's a beautiful stadium. I guess you're just done, right? You're hanging back now.
Checking out, man.
Yeah, behold. I mean, a lot of excitement here. Is your city ready for what's going to go down tomorrow night here?
You know, I think we are. I think that when you look at the energy already at the airport, they're selling the gear for the National Women's Soccer League. You're seeing a lot of activity and excitement, and it is just a little chilly today, and we still got people out smiling.
People still coming, though.
And they are still enthused.
They're piling in. There was a wait at the restaurant last night. I was like, okay, wow.
Now, it is exciting, and so Kansas City has been vibing for this and feeling this for some time. When we heard about the announcement, we knew we'd put our best foot forward, and I think you're seeing that now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is all the result of it being privately funded. And how important is it for that to be the case when building a stadium like this in a city that needed it?
Well, you're going to get me in trouble with my football team and my baseball team, but, you know, I think there is something very clear to say of what good private investment can do.
No doubt.
In an era when the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, a lot of those teams are saying we need $1 billion, $2 billion. Chicago, they're talking a $4 billion stadium. LA is a $6 billion. You see what private ownership groups can do. And with a good public-private partnership where basically we just helped on the infrastructure, the thing that cities do, you can have great venues like this. Ultimately, there has to be a talk in professional sports about this being the model rather than the alternative.
Spot on.
And they're talking about relocating possibly the stadium. How are you feeling about that? Maybe in Kansas City, maybe in Kansas, or another section of Kansas City. How are you feeling about that? A, do you think that's a real talk? And how do you feel about it?
You know, I think the Chiefs will be playing in Kansas City, the original one, for generations ahead. I think.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think that?
Yeah, because other people feel differently.
You have been to Arrowhead Stadium.
Yes, I have.
You've seen the experience and the vibe. I've seen games at Lambeau Field and other places. Arrowhead Stadium is one of those special places in America to watch a football game. And I will also say, compared to a lot of newer facilities, it's still one of the best.
Do you think the Royals might go over the river?
Now, the Royals are more interesting.
Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be playing in a different state?
Well, I think that the Royals want to be downtown. The Royals want to be in the core of the city. They're looking at spots there rather than building a park out in greenfield space or something like that.
So your term is up in 2027?
Yes, sir.
What are you doing in 2028?
Well, 2028, I know there are a lot of elections going around. I love public service.
I'm just saying.
I love my public service, but, you know, I think we'll see. But I'll probably continue to have an impact in some way.
Okay.
And be part of that messaging I want to make better one day.
Well, you've got two daughters and you had a young son. Quentin is his name. Congrats.
No, I figured I had to be like a politician and have a son named after me.
Mr. Mayor Quentin Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you sincerely.
We all know Kansas City is the king of barbecue, but there's so much more to this city than the food scene of the barbecue. This morning, we're getting a taste of some of the city's best, from tacos to brisket. Nate has been talking about brisket all week long. To donuts. I've been talking about Lamar's all week long. There's something for everybody here. So are you hungry yet? To help us dig into everything Kansas City has to offer. I took a burn in before I went on TV. I don't want to choke on TV. James Beard award-winning food writer, that's Jill Silva. She was a food editor at the Kansas City Star, and now she runs her own PR shop, and she joins us at the table. Jill, it's good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and welcome to Kansas City.
No, you know, I used to anchor the news here back in the day.
I know. Well,
so when I landed, the first thing I did, I called George Gates of Gates Barbecue and said, hey, do you remember me? Can I come and you treat me to dinner? And he said, yeah, come on down. I went to 47th and Paseo.
Perfect.
And they still do that. Hi, may I help you? When you first walk in the door. But there's so much more to the barbecue. Help us understand the Kansas City food scene.
And make it a long answer if you could, because we're going to eat a little bit.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, Kansas City is known for barbecue. Barbecues are iconic food. Why is that? Well, we have the Kansas City Barbecue Society. 15,000 members
barbecue
strong.
Society?
Yes.
Wow.
International competitions, national competitions. Pitmasters, you got it. Teams. It's a team sport. Wow. So you got to like that, right? We have the American Royal. It is the most wonderful and largest barbecue competition every year. So, and we have more than 100 restaurants that serve some kind of barbecue.
Nate, you really like your sour cream, I have to say. With that taco.
I go heavy on the sour cream. But speaking of that, Tony, Kansas City also has a really good taco scene.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Surprisingly so, yes. Forbes named us in 2021 as one of the top taco places. We have 50.
What's in the taco?
Well,
because I always think of fish tacos.
Beef, lettuce, got all the sides, sour cream, onions, peppers.
This is from Dixon's, same folks that do the chili.
That do the chili.
Right,
we had their chili the last hour.
So this is their taco version of chili, I think. And then there's also, many Mexican taquerias all through Kansas City, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually have a taco trail. So if you want to get really into it, you can go down Kansas Avenue, which I'm sure, Gayle, you've been there before, and go to all the little mom and pop places.
So as competitive as the food scene is here, it feels like there is a community, though.
So much community here. We've really laid the groundwork for lots of wonderful chefs and restaurants. So we have lots of James Beard Award winners and nominees, and so that says something about it. We have great culinary training programs here. So it just all kind of comes together, and the chefs really all work together. They want to help each other, which is nice because we're a city that's just the right size for that, I think.
One of my favorite
Lamar's
things.
donut. I'm sorry, Gayle.
I know.
This is curse
Please
word
talk
delicious.
about Lamar.
This is curse word delicious.
Yes, it was my heroin back in the day. Jill, I remember having a diet one weekend where the diet was 4 Lamar donuts that I just wanted to last for the weekend.
Better than the cabbage donut.
I love these donuts so much. Tell me why these are so special.
These are really special donuts. They're delicious, right? And I bought a box, and you know what? The next day, they were just as delicious. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
I worked in a newsroom. Lamar's Donuts came in all the time. If we didn't have Lamar's Donuts kicking around somewhere, I don't know what we'd do. We were fueled on adrenaline and sugar.
and that's pretty much what we're fueled on right now.
I know. I left in 1981. I left in 1981, and I still remember this food. Still.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jill, we appreciate you so much.
Good to
Thank
see
you
you.
for joining us. This year's NWSL Championship, the KC Current, had a record-breaking season. That's right, they became the first NWSL team to sell out every home match and broke the league's record for total goals in a season with 57 goals. However, they lost in the semifinals against Orlando Pride on Sunday. Captain and midfielder Lola Bonta joins us right now. She is joining us as a CBS analyst for the championship game. And we appreciate you joining us here at the set. How you doing?
I was good. You were like building up my team, right? It was like all these records broken, and then we had to bring up that last game.
You still have a lot, though, to be proud of.
Despite the current loss, like Gayle said, there's a lot to be proud of, a historic season. How does it feel to be coming off of that year?
You lose a game, and losing a game always hurts, and I was sad for maybe 24 hours, but then you look back, and like you said, all those records we just broke, it's so much to be proud of, and I don't know if I'm older, I'm getting more sentimental, but I truly am so proud of this team and our fans. Like you said, we sold out every home game, and we felt that. They helped us win so many games at home, score so many goals, and now we have the city behind us too, so it's a good time to be a KC Current player.
Yeah, and you guys went to dinner Wednesday night.
Yes.
You said there were a lot of happy tears.
Yes.
So you reflected on it. I know it had to be bittersweet for everybody.
100%. Again, no one wants to lose the last game of the year because you sit on that until the next season. But just looking at, we had new faces, we had a new staff, and to accomplish what we did in such a short time, it was amazing. And like I said, I can only look back and be proud of it.
Yeah, and now don't you look forward to next season because you said we're fired up, ready to go.
Yes.
You feel that?
I definitely feel that. We don't have much change going into the next season. So just to carry that momentum over, I think we're going to be deadly. We're going to be a good team next season.
Deadly.
So you'll have a lot to celebrate. You're known for your celebrations. They call you the Selly Queen because of your
Selly
viral
Queen.
moment. I am curious, you just let the emotion take you and you express it, or do you have an idea of what you're going to do ahead of time?
Both. I'm a very happy person. I like to enjoy life. Life's too short to not enjoy it. There's a couple you have to plan. I did Dirty Dancing with my teammate.
Yes.
We had to plan that because if I would have just jumped into her, she probably would have just threw me over her. But there's some planning. There's some that are, sporadic. But yeah, I just like having a good time.
Okay, so I'm curious about that. Let's stay right there because I played 11 years in the NFL, and even though Sundays, that was game day. It's serious, right? You got to go out there and get the win. Saturday night, I was in the hotel in the mirror practicing my dance move with my roommate.
Were you?
Yeah, Gayle.
I need some notes.
And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, if I score, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And my teammate's like, okay, and then I'm going to come in. I'm going to do it. So tell me you do that too. I'm not the only one, right?
But Lo, it looks so spontaneous, Nate, on the field.
Well, some of them, yes. But then some you have to do a little choreography, right?
I do think anytime I bring in a teammate on a celebration, and I always try to, some of them are down, some of them not so much, so that's when I just go off on my own. But I will plan a little bit if I bring in a teammate, but if not, but seems like you have some that maybe you didn't use, I'll take them. Just send them my way. I'll do it next year.
We'll talk during the commercial break.
So game day tomorrow night, what are you going to be watching for that you go, ooh, this is good, or ooh, not so great? What are you looking for?
What matchups?
It's going to be a great matchup, right? It's number 1 and 2.
Why do you say that? Okay,
it's the number 1 and 2. They've been consistent all year. These are great teams. It's a huge mix of youth and experience, and I think that's what makes a successful team. One team has one of the best defenses, so that's Orlando Pride.
Yeah.
And so that's what's the saying, like defense wins championships. But then you got the youth and the attacking fire on the other side. So it's going to be a great match. I'm sad I'm not going to be out there, but it is exciting to watch. It will be for sure.
People talk about Marta a whole lot, but there's another player on that team at the beginning of her career, Barbara Banda. Talk about the dynamic between a great who's in her late 30s and a soon-to-be great, already great in her early 20s.
Yeah, they're probably the most dangerous duo in this league right now. They have a great Orlando has a great defense, but then you have those two that on the attack, you don't even know what they're about to do. It's so unpredictable. They're so good. Marta, a legend already. Like, she's done so much for this sport. And Barbara Banda comes into this league and just dominates immediately. So those two, for sure, you got to look out for. They're going to be doing something special.
We've been talking all morning about this stadium. I keep saying, I can't find enough adjectives to describe how beautiful it is. I keep saying love is in the details, and there's so many details that make this place very special. The first time you saw it, what did it mean to you? Jessica, the commissioner, told us she actually cried the first time she saw it. What did it mean to you? You get to play here. Yeah.
Being able to play here, I've been in this league for a long time, right? And no team has ever had their own stadium. You're usually renting from, sometimes in the beginning of the league, it was a baseball field.
Yeah, Darian told Jenkins that she on a baseball field.
It was a baseball field.
Yeah.
And so, like, the ball would bounce off of second base. You know, it was crazy things like that. So for me, the very first time I let this all soak in, it was our first home game. It was packed. We had a flyover. You could hear the fans, and it just sent chills through my entire body. Like, finally, we're making waves as female athletes. Like, the men have it, and we're getting there. And this now is the standard.
It's so cold right now.
It's the standard.
The field is covered. We were taking these aerial shots, and you can't actually see the grass because it's underneath the tarp because of the weather here. But I got to imagine when you come out of that tunnel and you got a city around you, and that first moment when you see the green of the grass, what's that like?
First off, this pitch, like, the stadium alone is amazing. This pitch, our grounds crew, they keep it pristine, like all
female
year.
All female grounds crew.
Yes. And it's so fun to play in, and you can play really good soccer when the field is this great. So credit to them. They get kudos too for some of our wins as well.
There's been more and more investment into this sport, and hopefully it trickles down to the youth so they can create feeder systems going into middle school, high school, college, and then pros. What advice would you give to young boys and girls? I hear the train. I hear the train.
Yeah.
Hop on the train of women's sports. It's moving, baby.
Here comes the future. Get on and get out of the way.
What advice would you give to young boys and girls who are looking at you and saying, I want to do that? And maybe even their parents who don't know how to start that career at a young age.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about investment in women's sport, but I think the investment needs to be there for the youth as well. A lot of teams in Europe had academies where a kid can sign up and they're brought up in a professional atmosphere, so they already know what it's like. I would love to see that here. I think our owners, for sure, if they haven't said already, they're probably starting to invest and do that as well, because we have a lot of clubs and youth around, and then they see this and they want to be here and play here. And I love that. And it's so inspiring. And that's what we're fighting for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate it. We're very excited for what's happening here. Really nice to meet you, too. No, really nice to meet you. You can watch the championship game between Orlando and who are you rooting for?
The NWSL.
That's right. That's right.
Tomorrow
Yo,
on CBS and on Paramount+.
Oh, she's a politician, too.